Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Infrastructure Network. My name is Chad Smeltzer. I am your host. Today's guest is Chris Lorrain, who is with Land Tech Consultants. Thanks for joining me, Chris.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you because you are in 3D BIM technology, digital twin, with the way technology is going these days. But first, how did you get into just infrastructure and an engineering role?
Well, we've been in business since 1990. I started the company 33 years ago now,
Wow.
and we were a typical local mom and pop engineering and surveying company, mainly involved with real estate development and private developers and so forth. And with the recession, probably about 12, 13 years ago, we were looking for other revenue streams. And we got into reality capture. We purchased a laser scanner, got into reality capture, got into modeling. And it became evident to us quickly thereafter as engineers that the architectural community was utilizing BIM a lot,
Yeah.
but the engineering community wasn't utilizing it so much.
Hmm.
And being engineers, being involved in some infrastructure projects, water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, and so forth, it became very evident to us that there was a better way to document the existing infrastructure in these facilities for renovation and expansion projects.
Hmm.
Um, so we started to market our services towards the infrastructure world. Quickly caught on, and yeah, we're now all over the country documenting anything that has to do with infrastructure, water, wastewater, transportation,
Nice.
power, telecommunications, you name it, where they're documenting it and modeling it. And probably about 5, 6 years ago, some of our clients on the water side started asking, how can we take these models and provide further intelligence on them to help us with operations, maintenance, and so forth. Integrate our GIS databases, our asset management databases, and so forth. And we started working on digital twins before digital twin was a keyword. Um,
Nice.
and We're picked up on pretty quick by some of the big players in the industry, such as Esri and so forth. We're highlighted by Esri, and we like to think that we are on the leading edge of digital twins and what digital twins really are and how they can be utilized in infrastructure.
That's awesome. We're going to talk more about that, but I want to get a little bit into how did you have a family history of like engineering? How did you get involved or want to be an engineer?
Sure. My dad was an electrical contractor, and as a little kid, I always loved being around construction sites. Wasn't real cool with electricity, to be honest with you. I got hung up a few times helping my dad on electrical sites,
I bet.
but I always had a fascination with construction sites and with heavy equipment and moving dirt and the simple things.
Yeah.
And I realized that to get into that industry, my parents wanted me to go to college. I wanted to be the guy driving the bulldozer, but my parents wanted me to go to college, and I realized to get in there, civil engineering was the way to go. And yeah, got into the civil engineering side of things. I actually went down out of college, went to Groton, Connecticut. My first job was working on Trident nuclear submarines in the nuclear compartment as a construction engineer.
Oh, wow.
Um, Something I found after a couple of years really wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in construction, moving dirt, and came back to my birthplace here in Massachusetts. And shortly thereafter, probably about 8 or 9 years after, started my own company.
Wow. That's fantastic. Did you ever get to drive the bulldozer or any heavy
No, I still haven't.
equipment? Still have it. Darn.
A backhoe a couple of times, but not a bulldozer.
Have you? Okay, nice. So nuclear, you said nuclear engineering, correct? It was something with.
Nuclear engineering,
So
yeah.
were you on a submarine or did you ever get involved in? Okay, you were. Okay.
Yeah, I was in the field as a construction engineer, specializing in structural elements of the reactor compartment of Trident submarines.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty cool, and it's something not a lot of people can say that they've been in the reactor compartment of a Trident nuclear submarine.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Of course, that was probably 40 years ago now, but yeah, it was pretty amazing, and I enjoyed my time there. but nuclear just wasn't where I wanted my profession to go,
Right.
my
Being
career to go.
Yeah, no, I get that. Especially working in those confined quarters, I would imagine just tight spaces. I could imagine doing that. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
so you had a family history. You were always in construction sites, and you've been involved in construction for such a long time. Where When you started a business, did you have an idea how to run a business, or where did you get that education from, or being able to do
No clue.
that? Okay,
School of hard knocks.
hard knocks.
When
Like
I came back up from working on nuclear, I actually went to work for another civil engineer that had just started up his own company, and essentially I was the first employee, other than the president. And we grew that company to about 50 people over the course of 8 years. And then the recession of the late 80s, the real estate recession of the late 80s, took its hold, and unfortunately, there were several companies that didn't make it through that, and that company that I was at that time vice president of didn't make it through,
mm,
and at that time again, it was a difficult time for finding another job in this profession, and I said, well, there's still some clients out there that need some work, and let me see what I can do. And we started off and never looked back.
that's a fantastic story. Wow, you talk about entrepreneurship right there. Just taking the customers that you potentially had and probably started with one or two, and then you grew this business. How many employees do you have now? I think you mentioned earlier.
Right now, we're about 20.
20. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, look, you're providing a great value too when you're talking about the digital twin and moving in this technology world. When you were designing projects using the old like blueprints and things like that, and now you're looking at the way things are with digital twins and BIM, like what do you think about the history there of the transition that's happening?
It's I often look back to even the days that I was in nuclear construction, and I look back to some of the problems that we had in reactor compartments on the Trident submarines, and we'd be building multiple submarines at any particular time in various stages. And my job was, if there was a problem that came up in the field during construction, we'd be notified and we'd have to resolve what that problem was.
Mm,
And very often there would be a pipe hanger that would be welded to a bulkhead, and there was some other element that would interfere with where that pipe hanger was.
mm,
And this might be on the fourth or fifth submarine down the line, and you'd sit there and you'd say, "Well, what did we do for the first three submarines? Because we're just building the same thing time and time again."
right.
Um, and you'd have to go back and you'd have to go through all the plans and look through all the documentation and so forth, and it would take days to resolve how to fix that particular issue and what we did previously. And I think about that, and I look back now and I think, man, if we had a digital twin, if we had a 3D model of how that all went together back then,
Yeah.
the problems that would have been avoided with conflicting items going into these particular structures,
Right.
and being able to look back and see what happened with previous submarines that were being put together, it would have been invaluable to have that information. And I'm sure they do have that information, and that's how they do it now.
Right.
But back then, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't have that.
Right.
And the time savings that can now be adapted by utilizing 3D is just, it's incredible.
Yeah. No, you're
Yeah, having all that information at your fingertips is amazing.
Yeah, it's a new world out there. So what are some of the challenges you're being faced with though, as far as adopting this technology within government agencies, for example?
Sure. There's if part of it is there's a lot of old school like myself, and like I said, we grew up in the blueprint age,
Hmm.
and it's all 2D, it's all on blueprints, they're in file cabinets someplace, and that's what we learned to read, that's how we learned to build.
Yeah.
Um, to take 3D now, if you don't have the mindset to be able to look at 3D and understand 3D, you don't want to look at it. The old school doesn't want to look at it a lot of times because they don't understand it. That's not what they grew up in, and they're afraid of it. They don't want to learn. It's not all that difficult. comes together pretty quickly, and it's amazing when you see what it can do.
Yeah.
We run into that quite often. The other thing that we run into a lot is a lot of the infrastructure that we work with, obviously, is public infrastructure,
Right.
um, and public entities. And to get the funding to convince people that this is the way to go takes a while. You've got to stick with it, and you've got to convince them of why they want to go with something along these lines, and then find the funding to be able to do it.
Right.
Those are common stepping stones that we hit all the time. But yet at the same time, we hear the same problems from all of our clients as to, well, I really want to solve this, that, and the other thing. And it's this is geared towards solving those issues.
Right.
So if you want to solve those issues, you've got to accept the technology that will do it and find the funding to fund it.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. One of the biggest is the funding to do
Sure.
this type of stuff. But you would think that we would be saving money because we're doing it digitally. Isn't that one of the incentives that this would help the government agency start looking at, or is it just because there's don't want to check?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This helps them save money in the long term. It's kind of like BIM. When BIM first came out in the architectural world, nobody wanted to do BIM because it would cost you more money up front. You had to pay a significant amount of money to get that in a model. But the end game was that when you went to build it and you didn't have all those conflicts, and you didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in change orders because all of your infrastructure was conflicting with each other when you went to build it, that's where you made up that money.
Hmm.
So you had to get that mindset that I've got to spend a few bucks up front to be able to save money in the end. It's the same type of thing with a digital twin. You've got to spend a few bucks now to integrate that, to develop that digital twin and integrate that digital twin in order to save money in the long run.
Yeah.
If you can save, there have been some studies that have been done that say, a digital twin can save you, or save each individual that interacts with the digital twin, can save anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day of their time by being able to have that information readily available. Well, take
That's a lot.
if you have 6, 8 people that interact with that digital twin on a daily basis, whether it be your facilities personnel, whether it be your operations personnel, whether it be your asset management personnel, if you've got 6 to 8 people that are saving anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day each,
Mm.
multiply that times a year, and that adds up real quick.
Yeah.
Um,
So what are the
and you have to accept that mentality and accept that. And if you haven't worked with a digital twin, maybe you don't see how that's going to occur yet.
yeah.
So it takes a while for us to convince people that let's give this a shot and let's see how you save.
That is a massive time saving in all aspects of building infrastructure. That's huge. So basically,
Sure.
what we're getting at is like the traditional way of looking at blueprints and building infrastructure versus the time savings with digital twin, or moving into that direction is tremendous. I mean, just from what you said, wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. We
Well, imagine, nowadays in most of our infrastructure is in most cases pretty old, right?
right,
We've got water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, power plants, 40 years old.
yeah,
And they were done on blueprints that are put away in a file cabinet someplace. And chances are, if you know where those blueprints are and you pull those blueprints out, they were 40 years ago. They're not accurate anymore because changes have gone on. So, my favorite use for those things is to start my fireplace. Um, if you don't have accurate information to begin with,
yeah,
and if you have to find that in a file cabinet, and let's say you've got a pump that's out in one of your treatment plants,
yeah,
and you need to find that pump and you need to repair it or you need to replace it. First, you got to go find the blueprints as to, well, where is that pump? Then you've got to find it in this maze of infrastructure and pipes that are laid one on top of another and valves and so forth. You've got to find that. Then you have to find the documentation of how to fix that pump or how to replace that pump and so forth. It's in a file cabinet someplace, or maybe you have it in a digital file that's on a spreadsheet. Doesn't tell you where that pump is. Doesn't show you how to get there. If you can take all of that information and you can put it on a laptop or you can put it on a tablet,
yeah,
and you can give it to a service technician
yeah,
and direct them as to exactly where that particular asset is, and they get to that asset, and everything they need regarding that asset and how to repair it or replace it is right there on the tablet that's on their hand when they're standing in the plant looking at it.
Yeah.
That's a huge time savings.
Big time. Yeah.
And you don't have to rely on plans that are old and outdated any longer.
Yeah, that's spot on. Wow, Chris. So I guess to kind of step back, how do we create a digital twin? That would be a good place to educate like the audience. Laser scanning, right? Is that a good way to start developing a laser, digital twin?
Sure. Well, if you ask 10 different people what a digital twin is, you're going to get 10 different definitions of what a digital twin is.
Okay.
And I guess in the most basic meaning of the term digital twin, if you have something that you can monitor or operate digitally, on your computer, um, that's a digital twin. Somebody once told me that, well, if I have an old set of plans and I scan them in and make a PDF and I have them on my computer so that I can access those plans on my computer, well, that's a digital twin of my facility.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose in the most basic meaning of the term, maybe that is. In our definition, a digital twin has to have a working visual element to it that's populated with the data that you need to operate, maintain, control that particular facility.
Mm.
So, what we like to do is if you already have a building information model for a particular structure, a particular asset, because it's relatively newly constructed, fine, let's take that building information model, let's build upon it, and let's turn it into an intelligent digital twin. If you don't have it, we take our laser scanners, we go in and laser scan, we create that model for you.
Mm.
Then we take that model and we integrate it into various other platforms, so that you can readily access it and readily get data off of it.
Yeah.
And we like to integrate the software that our clients may already have in place. If they have an asset management system, let's use the asset management system you have. Let's not reinvent the wheel by telling you have to get a new asset management system. No, that doesn't work.
Right.
Let's use what you already have, what you already are used to using. If you have a work order system, let's use what you already have. If you have SCADA in your particular plant, let's use the SCADA that you already have. So we like to take the elements that you already have, that you're already used to working with, integrate those into the digital twin. So now you've got a 3D model that has all this asset information in it, and
Yeah.
it's attributed to each individual asset within the model, and it's readily available in the office as well as in the field.
Yeah, that's it seems like everyone should be using this technology. And then we're not quick adapters to do this, as we previously discussed. But I guess to kind of understand a little bit more, so when a laser scan is happening on a building, right? I envision this piece of equipment. You go in and start scanning the internal, or is it outside? You do both.
We do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself by explaining the whole process,
That's so
but
yeah.
with sure, with laser scanning, so there's a few different ways to laser scan. We have various pieces of equipment depending upon what the particular project is. Um, but a laser scanner rotates continuously as you move. It collects data. Everything that you see, it sees, and it essentially maps it in a 3D pattern.
Hmm.
So you create millions, sometimes billions of data points when you laser scan a particular structure. And each one of those points has an XYZ coordinate on it. Now, they're dumb points. They have an XYZ coordinate point on it. It can't tell you whether it's a floor, a ceiling, a light fixture, or what it is,
Okay.
but it paints a digital picture of everything that's there to very accurate dimensions.
Hmm.
Once we have that point cloud of these millions of points throughout your particular facility, then we can take it and then we bring it into various software platforms, and probably the most popular is Revit.
Okay.
And we'll bring it into Revit and we'll create a 3D model, and from that point cloud. And each model contains sometimes thousands, tens of thousands of elements within the model that make up each of the individual assets within the facility.
That's really cool. I mean, you're talking to, because I talked to my buddy who's in construction. He does HVAC ductwork installs, and he complains about the when the engineering design specs come out and he's looking at these specs, he's trying to like fit something into a certain place. He said it doesn't fit, like it never fits. But when they start looking at the digital twin side of like the images, they can actually, it helps them measure correctly where to put the right ductwork and stuff. He was mentioning that a lot. So it seems like I'm just surprised that more people aren't using this technology as a quick way to understand more about the infrastructure. It's
Sure, it's gaining in popularity a
yeah,
lot, um, and it will continue to gain in popularity. The field continues to grow,
yeah,
but yeah, as you see it, as you work with it, then it becomes much more obvious as to, well, why haven't we been using this before?
right.
A lot of people seem to think that it's cost prohibitive. It really isn't.
Hmm.
The equipment and the technology has become faster over the 12, 13 years that we've been involved with it. Um, Much more efficient,
Yeah.
much cheaper equipment. And it just, yeah, it's an amazing technology. It doesn't cost nearly as much as most people think.
So it doesn't go through you mentioned something about the floor and the ceiling. It doesn't go through those, does it?
Does not,
Okay.
doesn't see through walls, doesn't see through the floors and ceilings.
Okay.
If we have a structure that's multiple floors, we tie them together. And again, depending upon how it is, there's various ways that we tie it together.
Mm-hmm.
We are a conventional survey company as well. So we understand the science behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and how to tie point clouds together over long runs or multiple floors or so forth. And generally, that involves running conventional survey to control to make sure that it's accurately put together and represented.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
some of the problems that we have heard from people in the past is that there are probably not a lot, but there are some providers out there that somebody saw this and thought it was a really cool technology, and went out and bought a laser scanner and started marketing their services without really understanding the science behind it
Oof.
and how it all needs to come together to accurately reflect what's there.
Right.
And they have provided substandard results to some clients, and has soured people on the use of laser scanning.
Ah.
It's not that laser scanning is not a very precise and very accurate technology. It's all about anything else. It's how you use it,
Yeah.
and how you develop it. And if you use it the way it's intended to be used, and you control it the way that you need to control it, you get an extremely accurate result from it.
Yeah. The point cloud, is it like light reflective or is it just a laser? I mean, because there is camera systems that I've been experienced with those light reflective point clouds, right? It creates that manhole 3D image, like the
Sure.
panorama cameras and stuff. Is there a difference there?
Yeah, there. I mean, there are different types of point clouds. We generate, again, for what we do. We generate our point clouds through laser scanning,
Okay.
and there are various laser scanners that have various levels of accuracy on them. We use survey grade laser scanners from a very well known survey equipment company,
Hmm.
and our scans are generally accurate to within 2 to 4 millimeters.
Wow.
So you're talking something that's extremely accurate to plus or minus an eighth of an inch in most cases.
Yeah.
Um, you can also generate a point cloud just from photogrammetry, and there are ways to do that over small areas generally. Although you can also do it utilizing drones. We have drones. We fly drones, and we'll utilize photogrammetry sometimes, but we always tie it to survey control on the ground.
Hmm.
But from photogrammetry, you can be easily 10 centimeters or more, from accuracy. You can be off by feet utilizing photogrammetry,
Got it.
but it's all utilizing the best tool for the job,
Yeah.
like anything else.
Yeah.
If you don't care if you're off, by a foot or a couple of feet, sometimes that'll work for you.
Yeah.
But if you want something that's extremely accurate, you'll go to laser scanning. It all depends upon what the job is as to what tool you want to use and how accurate the point cloud is that's generated from it.
Wow. That's great information to learn about. Because I think everyone's trying to figure out what's the difference, and that's a great explanation. Kind of pivoting a little bit, I'm going to go to like the labor force and labor shortages and all this stuff with infrastructure. What's been your interpretation of what's happening out there, Chris?
Like anybody, we have our own problems in attracting, qualified personnel. I think through most of industry, we hear it from our clients all the time. It's a shrinking workforce and an aging workforce.
Mm,
And one of the most common problems that our clients come to us looking to solve is how do we address that? Our labor force is getting older. We have individuals that have been working in a particular industry or for a particular um, entity for 20, 30 years, and they're getting ready to retire, and they're taking all that knowledge with them. How do we take that knowledge and transfer it to a younger workforce? How do we attract a narrowing labor pool in that younger workforce? And essentially, how do we do more with less?
right.
This is digital twins, if they're used properly, is a perfect solution to that,
Yeah.
because not only can you get more done with less, um, but you're also providing it in a technology that attracts a younger workforce.
Right.
You're not trying to attract a young workforce and say, go on those old dusty file cabinets that are down in the basement and see if you can find those plans from 30 years ago. And there should be a folder down there too that says how to repair this pump or what have you.
Yeah.
See if you can dig that up, and they're lost as to really, yeah, I've got to go down. I've got to search through boxes and see if I can find this stuff, as opposed to the younger generation all grew up in the digital world. They all grew up with 3D games and so forth. They all grew up with everybody's growing up now with cell phones and running my life off of cell phone. Give them that digital interface that they're used to working with, that they can zoom around in 3D
Yeah.
and say, hey, I can find everything I need with this technology that you're using now.
Yeah.
That's going to be much more attractive to getting that shrinking labor pool into work for you than saying, yeah, there's nothing that's real sexy about this job. You're going to have to search for those plans down in the dungeon, and don't let the cobwebs bother
Yeah.
you when you go down.
Yeah. You're talking about frustrating, a young engineer, right? Getting into that. And if you're
Sure.
still doing the old ways of doing things, they're going to get discouraged. They're going to be like, this is just a waste of my time. And they're just not going to stick around. You're exactly right with this stuff. That's
And you said before that I grew up, my profession, or my career started with the blueprints and the file cabinets
yeah.
and so forth, and from an engineering perspective, engineering companies have changed and engineering companies have adapted, and we all work on computers now, right?
Right.
Back when I started, no, you didn't work on computers, not on a desktop anyway. There weren't any desktops.
Right.
Um, but some of the infrastructure we still deal with, and some of the companies that we still deal with are similar to that in that they're dealing with paper elements. They're dealing with paper plans, paper manuals.
That's
Um,
crazy.
Even today, when we construct something, a lot of construction companies, when we construct something and we get to that point where we're finished constructing and we go to handover, they hand over a stack of documents that's like this. And your facility is completed. Here you go. Here's all your documents on everything that's in there. Why are you handing over a stack of documents that nobody's ever going to look at, and they're going to go in a file cabinet someplace or in the corner of somebody's desk, somebody's office,
Yeah.
and have no real value to most of what's going on?
Yeah.
Hand it over in a portable hard drive. Hand it over in something that's digital that people can access and find what they need quickly and readily.
Yeah. What's amazing is cities, some cities, not a lot, hopefully not, but they're still using file cabinets. And
Sure.
I still am baffled by this. And maybe it's a cybersecurity thing. I don't know. They don't want to have stuff on digitized, but it's amazing what's still happening out there in government.
I'm not going to lie. We still have some in our office here as well.
Right.
But
I
we
get it.
have flat files of plans. Like I said, we've been around for 33
Right.
years.
So you still
So I've got flat files of plans
right.
that were developed over that course of time. But you won't find a plan in there that's been generated within the last 15 years. Those are all on disk or on hard drive someplace, or
Yeah.
they're not actual paper copies any longer.
Right.
It's all digital.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, that's the path. That's the future. It's got to happen, or we're
Sure.
just going to be stuck in the Stone Ages, so to speak, paper ages, whatever you want to call it, and not advancing our infrastructure. if we don't change the way we're doing things, the way it sounds, to digitize this stuff and move to digital twin technologies. I think that there's definitely a disconnect on the government side with some of the operators and stuff and this tech and some of the engineers just not understanding the true benefits of this. So how do we get this information out to people? Do you think would be better?
I think we attend. I speak at a lot of presentations with seminars and annual events and so forth. We're constantly meeting with people and showing them what we do, and doing pilot projects, and so that they can understand how it's going to work in their particular environment. You don't have to invest in your entire facility. We recommend that people invest in just a small. Again, if we're in the water and wastewater side, we usually say, hey, let's take a pump station someplace. Let's not do your entire plant right off the bat.
Yeah.
Let's take a pump station and something that we can get in there relatively inexpensively, create the digital twin for you, and show you the value of it in your particular instance. Um, Usually, when we do that, 95% of the time, they're sold and they move on to expanding it within their particular facility.
Nice.
But we've got to start somewhere. I was at a speaking engagement a couple of weeks ago in New York City, um, and I think one of the best examples that I heard was from a colleague that was making a presentation as well. And she said, look, we all use it in our houses. We don't use it at work, but we all use it in our houses. We all have Nest thermostats or something along those lines. And we all have it on our cell phone, and we call it up on our cell phone and we adjust the temperature on our house. I have it at my house. And, if I go away for the weekend and the power goes out and the temperature drops below a certain temperature,
Right.
I'm alerted to it.
Yeah.
It's my digital twin of my house that's in my pocket on my cell phone that I use for everything.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to my house and they trigger, my Ring doorbell. I'm alerted to it, and I can see who's there and I can talk to them.
Right.
Um, all of our appliances nowadays, they're all, you can control them all through Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We listen to our phone and we listen to our music, and we spread that through the house through our wireless speakers
Yeah.
on Wi-Fi. We come in and tell Alexa to turn the lights on. We use it at home every day,
Yeah.
but we don't use it in our infrastructure. We don't use it in our facilities. Why?
Yeah.
Well, we all know what it can do.
Yeah. That's a wow, great examples of what we're using at home versus what we're doing in infrastructure. Chris, we're running out of time, and I'm sure we could talk a lot longer about this. But how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach out? Kind of go
Sure.
from there.
They can landtechinc.com. LANDTECHINC.com is our website. You can certainly connect with me on LinkedIn at any time. Shoot me an email at clorrain@landtechinc.com.
Nice.
Be happy to speak to anyone about what they're looking at and how they can make things easier and how they can improve their particular situation.
Well, Chris, you're truly an innovator for your age and your experience, and then going into this digital world now and being an advocate for moving forward. Thank you, man. We need more of that. We really do. It's struggle. It's really
Sure. No, and it's the way of the future. It's not getting any easier,
no.
and we have to do something. We have to accept technology, and we have to move on with technology. And technology can help us if we give it a chance.
Yeah.
And give it the chance.
Yeah.
See what it can do for you. Just like I said, we meet multiple times a week with entities. Usually have a 1 hour Teams call or something along those lines. Show them a slide deck of what it is that we do, go through a live example. You can show anything on a slide deck, right? I don't like to
Yeah.
do too many slides. I like to do a live example so that you can see, no, it really does work,
Wow.
and it really moves pretty quick, and it's really pretty easy.
Yeah.
We do it all the time, and happy to talk to anybody and show them what we do.
Yeah. I'd love to jump on one of those someday. If you want to invite me, that'd be awesome. I'd love to promote that or at least show people.
I'd love to
Yeah,
love to show you.
that'd be
Yep,
great.
we'll do that. And like I said, we also have a YouTube channel, LTC 3D. We post a lot of stuff on that about what we're doing and
Love it.
and how digital twins can be incorporated. But yeah, love to show you firsthand, and anybody else that might be interested.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris, for being here on the show, and you have a great day.
Thanks, Chad. You too.
Bye bye.